Hey guys, let me know if you can hear me, how the audio is, visuals, etc. Got some playback there. What's up, Adnan? Good morning. Hi, Brentor. Ninja, my brother, what's up? All good? Good morning, Ross. Hope everything's been good. Jeff, what's up, brother? So, it's been a good week. Market has been strong. FOMC seemed to have turned the algorithm back on. Maybe Powell and ICT got on a call to fix that. Some good setups yesterday. Some good setups post FOMC. That 250 macro was brilliant. Those are the setups we wait for. How are you guys doing this week? Did you guys take trades in London pre-market? Were there good setups? I didn't look too much. We can check it out in a bit, but we're shortly approaching 9:30, so we'll want to focus on the open. Okay, but we will see what price delivers today. Close the week out strong. We'll go top down to begin. And whenever I'm prepping, and I mentioned this before, for a session, for a week, for a macro, we're trying to ask ourselves the basics. So what's trend been? What is the clearest draw on liquidity, if any? Do the conditions look favorable? And then ultimately we're waiting for our model and the clear setup in line with that higher time frame direction. So on that note, starting on the weekly, you can see we've clearly been bullish this week. We're taking out and expanding through all-time highs with right here FOMC's news release. Okay, that large wick down and beautiful recovery. 4-hour chart, there's really not much else I want to mention. I mean, the daily candle does look strong. We came below that candle open already. I wouldn't be surprised if today's just large upwards expansion. I am going to want to see, since we're towards the top of the daily candle at the moment, what the opening range structure looks like. If we do just continue to expand, I don't want to short at all-time highs. I'll just be looking for continuation plays, and hopefully we see, some sort of equal highs or relative equal highs be built, maybe fall short of previous day high, then see a quick macro retracement and macro power 3 entry. So the basics again, but we have been strong. Okay, 4-hour, not much I want to mention. We have this SMT large dealing range, but when the market's strong, as I just mentioned in the last few YouTube videos, when we're strong and the market's at all-time highs, we need to refine our dealing ranges, because it's not going to retrace to these deeper discounts of the larger ranges, right? It's going to be in a hurry to just, more likely than not, most of the time, just pump higher, okay, as we've seen here time and time again. So hourly, kind of refining that, okay, from the 4-hour. Going to use previous day AM to previous day high in general. You can see that we did come down, okay, into a discount of that range. And this is a balanced price range here. Came down right after 6 a.m. open. This is a beautiful setup here. I mean, I have to look at the lower time frame, but this hourly chart looks great. When you see that retracement to discount, sweep, balanced price range, and you have buy side liquidity to target, again, you see pretty clean highs here. Ultimately, previous day high, which we're falling short of. And I mean, ideally, they don't just rip it up. If they do, we just adapt and, again, just hope for a continuation play. So we just purged previous day PM high here. Ahead of previous day high, you have this internal buy side liquidity pool right here as well. Okay, so I am going to want to get that on the chart just as we prep for the open in about 10 seconds. You guys trade London? No London trades? Here's 9:30 open. We do have some pretty clean lows down here. We see if they want to provide any sort of retracement And if they do, even on this note, a lot of internal sell side here. If they do bring it down, a couple things. Discount of the range using London low, okay, to whatever high they have. But more specifically, this chunk of price action here is my line in the sand for bias. If we do see even any retracement, the market's been so strong, it could just pump higher. But we have a large midnight fair value gap to work with, midnight opening price in and of itself, and today's new day opening gap. So when you have the midnight fair value gap here, if we zoom back in at its inception, 1, 2, 3 SIBIs in a row. Okay, so you have to include that for the anchoring. And especially when these first presentation fair value gaps are right in line with an EQ of a dealing range and or just other things like new day opening gap. These are really, really useful for bias, right? So if we were to come down into here, leave equal highs, relative equal highs, and just simply put, understand the trend's been bullish, this is a place we could bounce from, as well as like if we had, and this goes beyond today, if we had like some sort of downside manipulation, okay, here, and then you saw a turning point, once we get back above that, ideally during a macro, then I'd want to see it spool upwards, okay? How you guys doing this week? Are you guys green, red, break even? Green Alex. What's up, Alex? I saw your comment, yeah. We'll touch on that in a bit, that name, but I did post that review yesterday. Do I deal with model equity open model? I'm not sure what that is, brother. Green. Where are you guys watching from? India, Oklahoma, Portugal. Andre, I was just in Portugal. Whereabout in Portugal are you? So, I mean, ideally for the open, they slice those lows and then give me a 950 macro power 3 long. That's simply what I'm looking for today. I'm just not so sure they're going to want to do that. So for today, I'm going to want to let the opening range play out. As I mentioned, see the structure. Still no 930 fair value gap. You're in Porto, Andre? I saw Porto play Sporting Portugal. And Porto won. One of the guys, I forget his name, but he scored a banger, a screamer. Spain, Brantor. Yo sé dónde eres, Brantor. ¿Cómo es mi español? Mi español es más o menos, pero por un americano es bien. ¿Quién habla español? También. From Pakistan, it was a good game. Germany, Brazil. Let's make today fun. If the live gets, we'll do 150 likes, I'll give away an Apex account. Bro, I've learned so many ICT concepts from your YouTube channel in simple way. Thank you, bro. God bless you. No, God bless you, brother. So they are bringing this lower. I'm looking at this high as engineered buy side. Short of 24,796.75. just so we are clear, I know some of you guys joined a little late. It's this, not this one, this buy side liquidity pool from right after 1 p.m. yesterday on NAS here, but ultimately previous day high. It would be super nice if they were to run this down and give us like a 930 fair value gap as a SIBI. Plain and simple again. Geez, voice crack. Plain and simple again, just the Judas swing. ES. Similar here. Previous day AM high. But same premise on S&P. So old template. I'm going to pin this comment. And I'm sure some of you have noticed, but I did update my profile picture on socials to my actual face. I am a human being, contrary to popular belief. But if you guys see that on just socials and me posting, it's not the old logo anymore, but RIP the robot, dude. New phase has begun. We still haven't gotten our gap here. We're just grinding lower, below 930 open. I mean, let me see. I want to make sure I have everything on. We shouldn't have, no new day opening gaps. And for those of you who have been asking, Ollie just got back from a trip, the developer for the indicator, and he's working on now the previous day session highs and lows being able to anchor out to the right, which is going to be sick. And after that, it's really all you need, previous day session highs and lows on top of what it already plots. That kid's an absolute wizard. Even looking at the 5 minute. I don't want to get too refined with this. This is the most obvious dealing range. If we're super strong, the market won't even go down to midnight open. So again, I'm trying to get the behavior of the market today, how strong it seems, liquidity they leave up here, any clues I can get to prep for when I ideally want to operate within, which is that 950 to 1010 macro window. And even on this note, I hope today's not seek and destroy, but we did have lots of movement this week. Okay. Initially Monday went up. Tuesday, some back and forth ahead of FOMC, but ultimately took out all-time high, large expansion, and now we're just kind of ranging here and stuck in between previous day's AM low and previous day high. So this could be, I do see a world where this is seek and destroy, where, let me go to the 15 minute. This here is previous day PM's high, this liquidity pool I just put on here, where they run, I guess even before that, they're running internal sell side and engineering internal buy side. Then they run that up to internal buy side. Okay, and then they bring it back down into the range, run internal sell side. So, of course, I hope we don't see that seek and destroy, but we do have to be objective and do our best. And the opening range is good for that, to try and determine that. Lissandro, you should do this at least one time a week. Thanks. Yeah, I'll start doing it Fridays. Still no 930 gap here on NAS. I'm aware of the SMT at the lows here, but again, for today, I want to use those. That's one of the signatures I'm looking for to frame narrative entering the 950 macro instead of rushing into an entry for me today. Sometimes when it's a bit more clear, I will take opening range plays, but today, especially because we did just purge all this buy side ahead of 930 open, I don't want to rush into anything. So, how do I use that? This is, of course, an SMT, and we're seeing a great reaction. But if that holds during and while we enter the 950 macro, then I would just use that as potentially a protected low to anchor my 1 minute dealing range off of. And let's say like the high for 950 is up here, this black line. Then I would just look for like something like this and then go higher. But as always, you guys in the premium group know I sound like a broken record. The focus is always just on performance, controlling what we can control, right? Doing our best to use these technical tools to build a clear narrative, clear directional bias first and foremost. And then ultimately, we're just controlling our habits, our decision making. Are we rushing into a trade? Like right now in these moments, earlier on in my journey, I would feel so much FOMO right now in general. Whenever the market opened at 9:30 or we entered a macro, or even just in general when I'm sitting at the charts and you start to see volatility and it starts to look like it's going to take off without you, you start to feel anxious, nervous. What if this is the only good move? And even on that note, you have to be okay with missing moves. I'm perfectly fine with missing moves, right? Because ultimately, what we're trying to do is be good decision makers and build good habits. And if I don't have like a clear bias or the entry checklist for Macro Power 3, the model that I and probably a lot of you guys watching right now utilize, there should be no reason for me to be in a trade. And by extension, I'm going to miss some moves, yes, but I'm also going to save myself from a lot of unnecessary losing trades, right? Now, that doesn't mean I have a 100% win rate with the model, Macro Power 3, any model for that matter, right? But it's about, first and foremost, getting rid of all the unnecessary losses where they're just simply lower probability, and the majority of the time stem from your FOMO, your inability to be patient, to sit still, to detach from outcome and just say, okay, I don't have clear drawn liquidity, I should wait. I don't have clear directional bias, I should wait. There's engineered liquidity on both sides. This could go to the highs, but I'm going to wait, right? And that perspective, it comes from me screwing up so many times early on and really getting sick of my own you-know-what. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way, right? The more you fall and continue to take action on those bad habits on FOMO and emotional trading, you're just going to continue to be stuck in the cycle where sometimes you get away with that, but then eventually you give it back. And each time you're slowly and more and more eating away at your confidence as a trader mentally, which is the most important thing, right? Because then again, once the high quality setups, favorable conditions do present themselves, you're going to be nervous to enter. You're going to have a more difficult time holding your trades because you spent so much time trying to operate when there was no model, when it was low probability, when it was consolidation, right? And that has been the theme, honestly, for the last month and a half, the majority of the time, at least for the AM session, consolidation and difficult reads, right? And what I've been saying to you guys on stream is just at some point, the market will kind of get back to better volatility, more clear opportunities, better, more efficient delivery as we're used to seeing. But you have to survive that consolidation and be able to sit in boredom, right? Or be able to sit with a losing trade when it's in consolidation and you do take a stab at it, but it's a loss because the market's a little stickier, you have to be able to sit with that and not tilt, right? Just because you can't handle a losing trade, right? And honestly, we're seeing that pretty trash open here, but yesterday was the best morning we've had in weeks, in my opinion. You know, all three macros, 950, 1050, and 1150, provided opportunity, right? And hopefully that's going to be the case as we, you know, move into next week and beyond the rest of the month into October. But again, traders can't sit in that boredom. Like going back, and I'm waiting for the macro. There's not much for me to mention here. Obviously, we have our first presentation gap. Pretty clean lows at the bottom, pretty clean highs at the top. So we do have this SMT, but whenever we start to consolidate, especially in an opening range, it becomes a bit more suspect to me. So what I would want to see ideally, if I could control the market right now, would be them rip that down during macro, run these lows, okay, and trap breakout traders into this structure that we mentioned. So new day opening gap, below midnight open maybe, in this midnight fair value gap, and frame an entry off of that, okay? As well as a lot of traders who are chasing longs, where are they going to have their stop losses? Below these relative equal lows, below the support. So that would be knocking both sides of retail money out of it, and then I would want to hunt for a setup, okay? Now, if they leave that for the 950 macro and they just start to spool it up here, I will look for a continuation play. It would have to be super clean, right? So we have that macro in 2.5 minutes. But getting back to what I was saying while we wait for that macro, like on the daily chart, this is where you want to be trading in, right? Expansion. But you need to be able to also perform well in these conditions. Now, the majority of the time when the market's doing this, performing well is doing nothing, or taking, if you have a max trade per day rule, that's 3 trades per day. Maybe you cut it down to 2. Maybe you lower your risk a bit after you identify consolidation. Maybe use this as a break to take a week off, go touch some grass, do something you like, right? Or even just be able to sit in boredom in front of the chart. And even if the market comes up here, sweeps these high, and gives a short setup, I don't even care if it works. I'm personally not looking for shorts because, again, as I've been mentioning these last couple of weeks and even the majority of this year, as the market's been pumping since the low in April, I want to be positioned in line with institutional order flow on the higher time frames. And what has that been? Bullish, right? So I'm okay with passing up on lower probability shorts, assuming at some point I'll get a great long setup in line with that. And even if eventually, like I've taken a couple losses with longs maybe last week, even if that is the case, I'd still want to be positioned with that higher time frame direction, you know? And to repeat, if this gets 150 likes, I'll give away an Apex account. It only has 27 right now, so. All right, a pop there right ahead of the macro window. Just checking on ES. Here's macro. So it's not ideal that we purge that buy side right at 949. And this internal buy side we mentioned, 796.75 here. The daily candle does look super strong. So again, those lows still are relatively equal, but it is an SMT. If we see some sort of retracement below macro, see if it wants to dip down. 9:30 open, first presentation gap, and if there's any reaction there. If we get below the 9:30 gap, I assume it'll just bleed down through these lows, of course, but maybe even down to the new day opening gap and clean up some of that internal. So right now, just a waiting game for me. S&P fell just short of EQ of its range. Now is leading the way. Man, yesterday was so clean. Adnan, that's what happened to you. Definitely need to work on psychology. That's the biggest part. After you have your model, the way that you engage with price, it's just you. And that's the most important thing, right? Are you winning those small battles that nobody else sees? Are you being disciplined? Can you let a potential move go without you needing to be in it if it's not a high probability trade? Right? Like right now, what I wanted to see, I mentioned I was not going to take shorts, and I'm still not going to, because I want to be in line with the higher time frame direction. Now, the market just, what did it do? 9:30 open, we went down, and the macro opened here. It just rips up and takes out previous day high, which was my objective, right? I have no feeling of FOMO or anything from that, which is the most important skill set. Now, for me as a trader, my most important, my biggest strength isn't, identifying a sick signature that ICT mentioned once in a live stream. That's Enigma, and that's going to unlock the holy grail for you. My superpower is knowing myself, and when I am in a good state of mind to operate in, when I am in a poor state of mind to operate in, when I start to feel emotional and angsty and, as ICT says, hopped up on goofballs or whatever. That was one of my old favorite ICT sayings, right? I know myself and can sense that, and I know how to regulate that now, right? Instead of just acting on it and saying, let's see if this works. Boom. 8, 9 times out of 10, that doesn't work. And that's what destroys your confidence and keeps you stuck in the cycle. And then it's another day. You look back on it and say, why did I take that trade? Bro, I said I wasn't going to do this. You did it again, Tim. Here we go, Or you take 3 FOMO entries in the opening range. Then by the time the 1050 macro actual good setup comes, even if it's a win, you're like, damn, you look back on the day and say, wow, I could have passed my account today if I didn't take 5 trades in the opening range, all those low probability trades, or if I didn't over leverage to get it back, right? And then you're saying after that day, oh, next week, tomorrow, I'll be disciplined. And then you say that to yourself, but in the actual moment of your temptation to chase price, to FOMO in, to break your rules, to engage with price outside of your system that you consistently operate within and upon, it's going to be really hard for you to make progress as a trader and even gauge your progress for that matter. Like if you're taking all your setups from your model, like let's say it's macro power 3 or even like silver bullet, but then you're sprinkling in a bunch of random entries, you're not even going to be able to gauge, okay, how is the actual model doing? How is my trading psychology actually doing relative hand in hand with the model? How do I feel as a trader, as a decision maker, as an analyst, how am I performing? Right? Those are the most important things, and that's reality. Right? And I can sit here and anyone can sit and show you, and it's important. I'm not negating the importance of it. Great setups, what I deem as a good setup, what I deem as a poor setup, what I deem as, just sit on your hands and wait, no trade conditions, et cetera, all the things that are important technically. But me, ICT, nobody is going to sit next to you while you trade and say, okay, you just took 2 losses per day. Remember you said that's your max loss per day rule? It's time to get off. No one's going to say that to you. Right? And that's the scary part, but it's also the empowering part, because once you actually take that self-accountability and act upon it, you start to progress, right? And you start to grow as a trader. ES still short of the highs. So really for me, again, I'm still waiting. We'll stay on for a bit here today. I would have preferred for 950 macro. I'll still see what happens if and when we come into a discount, and preferably the 930 gap, especially if we see like a double SMT down here, if ES is going to come down and run the lows again. But I would have preferred us to leave those highs, because if I'm bullish, do I want to see them sweep a bunch of buy-side liquidity prior to an entry? No, that's not the most ideal scenario, right? Does that mean we can't continue higher? No, of course not, but goes in. Am I talking about you? Have I found your journal? It's funny. We all face similar obstacles, if not the same exact struggles as traders, right? Because we're all human, right? I deal with some of this stuff, and sometimes even I slip up, right? I'm not perfect. I'm not sitting here on my high horse, acting like I'm perfect. Every now and then it is inevitable that you're going to slip up, not relative to your losing trades, because that should go without saying, but that you're going to fall victim to that temptation, that you're going to execute on that trade that you shouldn't outside of your system. But when that does occur, you have to nip it in the behind right away, as soon as you can. And what does that look like? Recognizing, okay, I just took a FOMO trade, I just over leveraged, whatever the rules we're breaking, whatever they are. The rest of that day, if you're still trading, or the next trading day, your priority as a trader is not, okay, I need to make it out alive today. Today needs to be a green day, because what is that? That's process oriented. You're focused on the outcome. Outcome oriented. Sorry about that. You need to be process oriented, right? We need to focus on following rules, okay? And if we break our rules one day, a successful trading day the next day, bouncing back from that is, okay, I'm going to ensure that I don't overtrade like I did yesterday to prove to myself that that was just a slip up and not another bad habit, right? And that I don't still have that bad habit. It's a slip up, right? So even on that matter, like if you have, let's say 2 trades per day as your max trade per day rule, or 3, and you're coming off a day where you overtraded, cut your rule, your max trade per day rule down from 3 trades, which it normally is, to 2 or even 1, to ensure that you're focusing on taking the best of the best setup and that you're not going to overtrade. You're guaranteeing, as long as you're a man or woman of your word, that you're not going to break that rule again. And you're ensuring that you're showing yourself that's not a bad habit starting to creep back in, right? And all of these little battles we face alone. But they're the most important thing that's going to improve your trading or keep you stuck, dwindle your confidence until you get to the point where you have no belief in yourself, which is the hardest place to get out of. So again, when you break those rules, as cliche or as cringe as it might sound, you have to accept it and forgive yourself and be honest and look at it and say, damn, I don't know what the hell I was doing today, but I slipped up. I have to own it. It is what it is. Tomorrow, I'm going to make sure I don't overtrade. Tomorrow, I'm going to make sure I don't over leverage, right? Or tomorrow, I'm just going to trade demo. Your priority is your performance, right? It's following rules. First and foremost, regardless of model, right? Even if I'm sure some of you guys maybe only use macro power of 3 sometimes, or maybe you guys have learned stuff from my channel that's just like relative to how I identify liquidity and you don't even use the model. That is fine, right? Because again, someone else's model, to them, it's the best model in the world. And that's how you should feel about your model. To me, my model is the best model in the world because I stick with it and I understand when it's favorable and unfavorable and it makes sense to me. And you should feel that way about your model or models as well, right? But most people find some new model, learn the very surface area pattern definition of it, okay? They take a trade with it, it's a winner, and they're saying, oh, this is it, I found it. And then they take a loss, and they're saying, and then they take another loss, and they're saying, oh, it's just another crappy model. When you have to understand all models are going to fail eventually. Of course, some have higher win rates than others. But as a trader, people don't even stick with one model long enough to realize when it's favorable or unfavorable, or when you really want to use that model versus when you don't want to use that model, right? Or subtle tweaks you can make to that model. Like I know some people who have adopted a couple things from macro power of 3 or macros in general and added it in their own little twist onto it because it makes more sense to them. It's more personal to them. And that should be your goal as a trader, to keep it as simple as you can, right? In the easiest way that makes the most sense to you, right? That should be your priority for your model. Okay? And then you stick with it and you understand you're going to take losses. But those losses, as long as they're not emotional, you dig into them and start to see, oh, I've noticed that when we don't go below macro open before a long setup, the long continuation is typically less favorable, and vice versa for a short. Or, oh, when we have an SMT ahead of a macro, it typically starts to spool. All those things that I talk about on the channel are from trial and error, understanding these scenarios, and by extension, a lot of discomfort and a lot of losing trades where I'm saying, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Oh, why did it work here? But you have to stick with that model, even if it's just the silver bullet, and you're just going for what ICT really laid out as probably his most popular framework in the 2022 mentorship. Silver bullet, 5 points with ES as a starting point. Of course, as you grow, you want to be able to get more than that. But as a starting point, you understand that model and then, okay, well, where's the easy low-hanging fruit, the most conservative objective that I can get? Because I'm understanding I'm going to make mistakes early on in my trading career, in my model, etc. right? But you have to stick with a specific model to learn all of these things. And in the meantime, your psychology and your mentality as you, the trader, goes hand in hand with that, right? How many times on stream in Discord have we seen a macro power of 3 setup when I have a bullish narrative and it leaves those damn equal lows down there? Now, majority of the time, it's going to go down and purge those. But sometimes, just because it's a lower probability long setup doesn't mean it's impossible. Sometimes it is going to leave those equal lows. And me as the trader, because I stuck with that model through experience and time with the model, I know myself as a trader. Now I can sit through that and be able to let that go if it wants to, right? But early on, it was more difficult for me to sit with that, right? And say, it's going to take off with equal lows. And then the funny thing is, it takes off with equal lows without you. And you say, I knew I should have taken it. And then the next day or later that week, there's a virtually identical scenario. And then you're saying, last time it took off with equal lows, I'm going to enter here. I don't want to miss out. FOMO, FOMO, FOMO. And then it goes down to those equal lows. Right? And again, these are the most important things, right? The most important things. And this is the reality, No one's going to give you some golden key. Of course, I believe my model is the best. Like I was saying, you should believe your model is the best, right? You should work hard to understand when your model is good or not, on what days it thrives, or when you should be executing, when you shouldn't, right? That's when you want to, that's where you want to put your focus, right? But these are the most important things. And you have to win these battles that we talk about. Even when I'm speaking here to you guys, and when you guys, even like on the weekends, whether you had a good week or if you're coming off a bad week, you're spending all weekend hyping yourself up, saying you're going to be disciplined, follow rules. It's easy to get motivated and on the weekend, but it's hard in the moment to actually resist that temptation, right? To implement that discipline. Isn't your model playing out on ES at the moment? Pattern-wise, yes, and it would be nice to see it spool higher. We did actually, on this note, leave equal lows here. But as I mentioned a bit earlier, when I'm looking to trade for a macro, a couple things I actually want to mention. What am I doing? 15-minute. We took out right upon the macro all this buy side. So after that occurs, I'll typically wait. And especially like right here, let's see if this is do we have a little consecutive SIBI here? Low 9175, high 92. No, we do not. Okay. So here, on that note, the fact that we already took out liquidity, all the liquidity, literally all of it, this is all-time high. And then we start to, with the macro, we do go below macro open. We run this low, and then we close above this inversion. Isn't that the checklist? Well, pattern-wise, yes, but you need narrative. And also, what do you guys who have watched me live stream and watch even just the channel for this matter, what's not the most ideal scenario about this setup? Tell me what you guys think, on top of, again, liquidity being purged. What do you guys think? This is actually a prime example tying in technicals with exactly what I was just talking about. Having ES equal lows, didn't take sell side. Well, it technically did purge a low here. Thank you, AS Trade. It's just above EQ, right? So the setups when we come this close to EQ, the setups are better after we deliver there. And this is just in a premium. Coupling that with, we already took liquidity, right? This is just a lower probability scenario. And tying that in with what I was saying, I'm okay with if this was, sometimes this is going to spool upwards, right? But you don't need to rush into every single move. Let's look at ES. ES did purge these lows. Opening range low, opening range high. Clean this up. Give us one setup based on your model. Like, you want me to go find one, like an example, or you want me to create one with the market right now? Unfortunately, I can't create a perfect setup right now. I left the script code for the algorithm in the other room, so I don't have it, so I can't create one. What's my bench? My max bench? Probably, not gonna lie, I haven't been lifting heavy. It's probably like 300 right now. Super annoying. My max bench all time is 310. And obviously I want 3 plates. And I got 310 and I was like, okay, for that session when I did it, I was like, all right, next chest day I'll just do this. I'll be able to get it. But I was just gassed out that day. Then I like golfed later that day and just destroyed my back. So I haven't gone super heavy since that. There's literally a full Discord sections and tons of videos with setup examples. LOL. Exactly. Live, brother. I wish I could control a setup right now and give you an A+ setup and give you a signal, brother. But How's the audio, guys? Is audio still good or visual still good? Only 47 likes. I guess we're not going to do the Apex giveaway. It's perfect. Thank you. Bro thinks that Tim is the market maker. I wish I was, dude. Again, this is a good example of literally what we were just talking about. So if I actually, let me take off the indicator real quick. Relative to EQ, right? This one initially fell just short of EQ, right? We come down, right? This low is what? 778 even. EQ is what? 777.5. So it's just short of that. Close above. Okay, now it's time to go. Low probability setup. It's exactly what I was just saying. So there's been nothing here to show me the market's tipping its hand and that I want to be involved. What's my age? 89. How do you get the indicator? It's in the description of this video. Now I'm 27. Common. Could you check 7 a.m. macro in FOMC morning? I took the first inversion there and then had SMT, got stopped, then re-entered with same risk and went downhill from there. Well, re-entering with same risk is not ideal, but yeah, we'll look at it. And what I need to do where are you? 7 a.m. So 6:50. I actually do remember this one. This one was fine to take as well. You have, I mean, there's a shallow stop on, but clean highs there, equal highs here. Okay, you go below macro, run this low. Now, so what I'm doing as I typically manage these setups, you're looking for a closure above. One of these PD arrays to push price higher. And when we close below those, you really want to see them reclaimed right away, because if they don't, then you're probably offside or it's going to chop around. Okay. But this was valid. And if are you saying this is, I'm wondering, I'll go check in a sec. If this is SMT or if this is. If this is here, this is valid. This is just a losing trade. Right? Which, as we've been mentioning a lot in the stream, you have to be okay with. And when you're okay with that, you don't beat yourself up for it because you understand they're inevitable. Today's best macro is 2:50 a.m. Oh, this is classic. Nice common. Did you take this common or did you just see it after? I don't know if you're a London trader or not. Sick there. High probability inversion. So again, we do have a little coloring outside the lines here, but once we get back above it, then we respect it with the bodies. Yes, it was an in. Yeah. So don't beat yourself up. Even 550 looked pretty good. Down into the midnight gap. Slow market today. I was hoping we get some more stuff to work with the open. But as we mentioned, it is a Friday. And we took out with no red folder, and we also took out a bunch of liquidity this week. And just saw a large movement with FOMC, even with yesterday moving higher a bit. Who's better, TJR or ICT? Brother. ICT, baby. How did I discover or develop this macro model? Listening closely to ICT, focusing on all the live streams, listen to the 2023 mentorship where he did a lot of these live streams, and then through just trial and error and what I've noticed as well. $27. Wow, I'm 40. Am I too late to the party? No, brother. It's never too late. Especially with, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse sometimes, but the internet these days, right? There's so much information. So find what works, stick to it, and that will accelerate your learning curve. So see this BISI here? This is important for me for narrative now. If we get above it, I think it's more likely we're going to run these highs, and it would be nice to see it go up to opening range high. Came down to the 930 gap. But why is this important? And I actually mentioned this. I forget if it was the YouTube or the video I posted on Twitter yesterday, but when we don't have like a clear inversion that was used on the last sell side leg before this move down, to anchor off of like a close above and then expect that to be referred to before the next leg higher, I'm looking through that further to see any BISIs there. So this was used to send us higher. Okay. Close below. It should be pattern sake. You know, right now, simply put, it's a bearish PD array. So if we get above that, that's an additional confirmation of bullish order flow to me. That's how I use these reclaimed inefficiencies. It was a Twitter video? Okay, yeah. See, I don't even remember my own stuff. Dollar delivered finally to our sell side objectives we've been watching for a while now. July low. We'll see where we close today. We mentioned this yesterday when we were on stream. Okay, now that we did purge these lows, if we do get a close above this, we did leave these super clean internal highs. You might want to reach up for 98,834, and I would see if they want to do, depending on the close, something like this. Get back above the BPR that sent us lower here and send us to this. And then at that point, I wouldn't be surprised if dollar just consolidated after purging sell side and buy side, and then just kind of rejected / hung out in this BPR and a premium here. So we'll see if we get this close above. It is in between macros. And with these PD rays too, like, especially when we're between macro windows, if you don't see clean delivery and displacement away from this, we start to close below, it's more likely than not just going to consolidate and be time distortion till the next macro. Let's see what ES is looking like, excuse me. Just doing absolutely nothing, just grindy. You'd want to see it rip through these highs. If it is going to make this move now. And again, if we come back into it, it'll probably just hang out till the next macro. Yeah, we'll start doing these streams on YouTube. We'll do it every Friday morning. That's what we'll do. If you guys want. No problem, man. So if this thing gets below this on a close, I think it'll just chop around and I'll probably wrap it up. It's a slow, obviously slow morning, but whether I'm on stream or off stream, I'm not going to force anything just because out of boredom, out of impatience. That's what we were speaking on earlier. That's what we speak on every day. That's what your priority should be. What do you guys think for today? Do you think NASDAQ needs to come down to opening range low before continuing higher? Or even all the way down? What do you guys think for today? Chop, chop. With this delivery here, that's what I'm kind of suspecting. Again, I'm using this BISI. You don't know? That's fine. You don't need to know exactly what the market's going to do. That's a sign that you shouldn't be pushing a button. Think one more run higher than lower, especially if ES fails to take out the high. Yeah, an additional SMT. Engineer buy side for later today or maybe even Monday. All right, this thing's just going to hang out. I mean, even look at the 5-minute chart. This does not look fun. All right, guys. So, again, slow one today, but, you know, I wish I could, as I forget who said it, but someone wanted me to control the market and create a setup. But unfortunately, I can't do that. So no trade morning for me. If I see anything, I'll be around for a little bit. I'll post in Discord. I'll give a ping or something. But seems just like consolidation on a Friday. Took out a lot of objectives, large expansion throughout this week, especially post FOMC. So this does make sense, this consolidation. And again, you don't want to rush in. So to summarize, this is a good example of a low probability trade as well as this one. And we spoke on why, EQ. And we speak on that over and over and over again, right? But that directly coincides and exists with your ability to detach if it was to take off there or it was to take off here. But just you want to weed out the low probability setups from your system you're trading. Okay, so slower one today, but it's okay. You show up at the charts, you take what the market gives, and you make the best decisions with that. Still, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll put together some review. If you missed the last 2 YouTube videos, the last 2 days, go check those out. There's a ton of value in those. I'm not just saying it because it's me, but I try to keep it as simple as I can. And it's really the stuff I utilize on a day-to-day basis. So enjoy the weekend. Finish the week off strong if you do trade the rest of the day. And I will talk with everybody soon.